Oh, there's no
Her
sound.
name is Zoe Harrison. She said the two of them were out here on Addison Road Friday night at around 6:30 when suddenly they were struck by that fleeing car. She said she doesn't remember the accident. Right now, she says she can hardly move because of the sadness and grief that she's dealing with at this point. She posted photographs of her daughter on Facebook. Zoe Harrison was 3 years old, and in one of the pictures her mother posted to Facebook, it says, "In loving memory of Zoe, forever in our hearts." The 3-year-old was transported to Children's Hospital where she was pronounced dead. According to the Independent Investigation Division, which probes all fatalities involving police for the Attorney General's office, an officer with the District Heights Police first tried to pull the man over, but he took off and the officer lost sight of the car.
Morning, I got a vehicle taking off. I'm on Walker Mill Road, coming up on Addison Road South. Black Infiniti SUV.
After a lookout was broadcast, an officer with Capitol Heights spotted the car and attempted to stop before the man crashed in the 1200 block of Addison Road. Investigators say he struck 4 vehicles. A man who spoke to News 4 says he heard the crash from inside his apartment. He said it was a loud boom.
I understand the police got a job to do. But when you got chases in areas like this, a 2-lane highway, you're putting so many lives in jeopardy because they're not going to stop. And they don't care about dying. They don't know the consequences that a car accident can kill so many people.
My heart really goes out to the family. As a new mom, I just can't imagine driving and doing something that's so ordinary, and then one moment your child's alive and the next they're not.
Prince George's County Council member Crystal Oriata says it's time to rethink how police initiate pursuits.
You know, we've been having this conversation for a long time about what should trigger an interaction, one, with law enforcement, and what should condone law enforcement chasing. We know we have laws already in place around chasing when it comes to like ATVs, and because we know it could lead to death. And so I think this just highlights that conversation needs to continue to happen.
So far, police have not released the name of the driver arrested or the charges he is facing.
So, Elzbieta, my question is this. It's very sad what happened in your county this week, but what are some pragmatic actions that you think can be taken to deter crime? On what do you think you would want to recommend, any type of, laws that could be in place nationwide? Because we do have a crime issue nationwide right now.
And crime is off the chain in our county, and she knows that. Yes, Lord.
Where do we start, right? Do we start in elementary school? Do we start in junior high school? Because it's not going to start on the street. It started before the streets. It started decades ago. It started in a home. Crime didn't just happen overnight. It unfortunately unfolded overnight. So with this, we're going to have to look at places where crime is low, right? We have to look in countries where they have already initiated retaliatory we have to look at ways that to prevent crime from happening in the first place. One thing that Prince George County can use more of is more youth centers, more senior centers. It can use better infrastructure, bigger roads. There should be, in 2025, 4 lanes almost everywhere now. So I know in some countries they do the rollouts, the chain rollouts. Some countries have invisible barriers where they physically can stop the car. But what do you do when something is happening right now? Like you stop someone and then they just take off. What do you do then? What's the answer? I mean, with these type of things, it's going to have to take actually some research, right? To find out how do we stop it without one spending billions of dollars on a research. Like we could just literally Google and look overseas, like what do they do? How do they stop it, right? Because unfortunately in crime, although we're number one in having imprisoned Americans, we're probably the 1,000th in trying to stop crime. So my number one initiative is finding out how we can deter crime, starting from the children, right? Starting from famine, starting from parents not being in a home, starting from, dysfunction in a home. Because crime, again, does not start on the street. It is unfortunately absolute, it's bound in decisions that were made that no one intervened and tried to stop. So we have to find a way. Prince George County is out of control as far as crime. We have to do something together. It's not going to be one person idea. It's going to have to be the constituents coming together and saying, you know what, this is an issue. Okay, what do we do about speeding cars? Because they don't care about our babies in the streets, right? What do we do about crimes in the homes? Because they don't care about our babies, the gunshots, and it's just so much. It's so much. Am I right, Kelly?
Yes. Yes.
It's so much. It's everywhere. It's just like a spinning ball of fire. It's just so much crime everywhere.
It's bad. And like she said, it's a lot of the youth. It's a lot of the youth, like doing carjackings and stuff. She's accurate with that.
Yeah. And Eldwina, this is Mika. She also lives in you live in Maryland too, right, Mika? Yeah. So she's gonna ask you some questions after Mia goes. Mia, take it away. I know you do the research.
Hi, nice to meet you, darling.
It's nice to meet you, Mia.
So I'm from the Northeast, so I know next to nothing about Maryland. So I did a little bit of research because I'm not from the area. I live in northern New England, north of Massachusetts.
Okay.
So I have a couple of questions. So when I was going through your website, it seems like your top priority are military veterans, their families, funding caregiver, and just funding the VA. I did a little bit of research. So it looks like the District 5 has about 753,000 residents, 250,000 households, but only about 60,000 veterans. So how do you plan on capturing that gap? Because I feel like the 60,000 veterans are super in line with you, but I feel like it's the other few 100,000 you're going to need to kind of capture that. So how do you kind of plan on capturing that other large demographic?
There are understanding politics. I wish it was linear. I wish that, I could say a magic word and everybody's like, but the thing is, my constituents have to tell me what they want, right? I know what I've lived. I understand that crime is a big issue. That's also a point of me. Education is a big issue. Finance is a big issue. The children not having anything to do close to their homes is a big issue. I want to bring in things for Prince George County. I want to bring in more activities to Prince George County. I want to make sure that Prince George County is is the stellar of Maryland. Like when people think of Maryland, the first thing they're going to think of is Prince George County is an amazing place to live, right? It's going to take big ideas to change Prince George County, and it's going to take all of us to do it. So to capture the other constituents, they tell me what they want, right? Everyone tells me what they want. My only thing is, don't tell me what you want without coming with a game plan. So don't tell me, oh, we need infrastructure. How? What are the ideas that's coming with this, right? Teachers coming out of me. You want crime to go away. How? How do we get rid of crime? I mean, I could use statistics. I could go to the law books. I can do things to implement things you might not like. But what we want is, we don't want more people in prison. We want to start with, our problem is the youth. I cannot tell you enough. Our problem is the youth, and we have to capture getting to them before the streets get them. So more youth centers, more activities, more fun things, bringing in like some type of fun air. I have so many ideas to help the youth, but to capture my other constituents, it is going to take town hall after town hall after town hall until I have a list up and down of what you want, how we implement it, how is the funding going to get here, who's going to help, who's ready to get employed to do this. Because if I come up with it, I'm going to put it on, we're ready to roll. I'm not a person that's going to talk. I'm a person about action, you know, so because it's not them and they, it's us. What are we Prince Georgians going to do?
That's great.
Right, that's perfect. Thank you. And I just have a couple more questions. So have you given any thought to what kind of committee seats that you want to sit on in Congress? Because they do have some options. And have you thought about which committee you would like to join, which you feel is kind of your niche for the biggest impact?
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't. I have not thought of it. I haven't considered anything. I'm going to do whatever impacts Prince George's the best way possible, because one thing I'm not going to do is embarrass my people. So if I don't feel like I'm going to be the best, I'm not going to do it. That's the only answer I have.
You just trying to get there first. I ain't mad at you.
Fair. Awesome. And then I was going through your website, and I really like your website. It's definitely a lot of information. You lay and you articulate everything very well. And I really do like the colors. It's going to be palliative to people as well. And so you had mentioned job creation, job growth. So can you tell me how you feel about potential targeted tariffs? Because tariffs generally protect domestic product. So do you think that in the future, especially if you're in there, that you can kind of help be part of like a caucus that reins in the crazy and move sort of a target tariff so Maryland can have more domestic growth?
Right. Who are tariffs good for?
If we buy American, it helps our GDP for us.
Right. So, but the tariffs on our allies, tariffs on, it doesn't make sense. What's happening with tariffs right now, people who have not took econ, tariffs are the way, let me see. If I just learned a word, tariff.
You're preaching to the choir. I agree with you. That's why I'm asking.
If I just learned the word tariff and I knew a very little sequence of what a tariff is, I'm going to put tariffs on them. That means we're going to pay more. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Oh, you know what? Canada's going to get tariffs. Why? Mexico's going to get tariffs for what? Come on. So tariffs.
Do you think it could help? Because
in America is so terrible.
On your website, you had mentioned like the CHIPS Act and like the Inflation Reduction and how that could feed into job creation specifically for Maryland, because you guys are like a water state, so you guys have a huge port. So do you think potential targeted tariff, let's say on China, to increase our job creation here so we stop buying from them and start more manufacturing here, kind of feeding into the CHIPS and the Inflation Reduction Act?
One thing about any question that why, it is going to be the constituents that answer that.
Okay.
I am literally a servant of my people. So when we do about 5 town halls and my constituents are, they all come together and are like, yes, the answer is yes. If they say no, the answer is no.
Fair.
The constituents
I like that.
will answer every last one of these questions.
And that's it. I think that's really the only questions, honestly, that I had. Other than that, your website looked great and it was full of definitely useful information. And this is just me because I am a dramatic, messy person. Who do you think is your biggest competitor in the Democratic ring? I want to know. I don't know anything about Maryland. Tell me who you think is like your biggest competitor, who you worried about.
So the person that I'm running against right now has had the seat for since 1981.
Oh yeah, Hoyer.
Yeah, he's had the seat since 1981, and some people like him. I personally think he's a Democrat in name only.
Fair. Okay.
And
I
you
was
can look
looking
at his record, and you can tell me
Why?
otherwise.
Tell us why. Like, name the
Um,
two things you would make you say that.
I will pull up his record because I love to make sure that I am telling you. I was just looking at this.
I can tell you this. I wouldn't say a Democrat in name only because I'm not a Democrat, but I do think you are the better candidate. I think he's been in there a very long time, and look, because you're probably you're going to beat out the Republican if they even have somebody running as a Republican.
Yeah.
You got my vote over him. I will tell you that right now. What you think, Mika?
Wow, that's pretty big that Kelly said that.
What you think,
You're
Mika?
running as a
Mika from
Democrat.
Maryland. She know what I'm talking about.
Hello, my name is Mika. Now, I can tell you, I have been listening so far, and I can tell you 100% that I have never voted for a Democrat. Okay, but with my side, I'm open to hearing anyone. Okay, I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. All right. It's just so that my um my values, my stance, how I carry my family, what I buy, all these types of things fit into what and who I vote for. Okay. I live in Maryland. I'm from Washington, D.C. So I've been around liberals and Democrats my entire life. All right. So I have an understanding of that. Plus, I have a master's degree. I am in econ. I am in accounting. So I'm very versed on that. Public health, public admin. I'm very versed on a lot of that. Where I wanted to come in is I wanted to ask you a question about what you said earlier. You mentioned the 92%. So, of course, there are those like me who would be the 8% who did not and have not ever voted for a Democrat. How do you plan on reaching those types of constituents? Because I used to live in Prince George's County.
So again, I want to tell you that you're not that far away from us, right? We have more in common than we have differences. Right now, you said you don't live in Prince George's anymore, but a lot of the issues that you have in Maryland, Prince George County, whatever happens is spread out all over, right? We need to be a shining example of what Marylanders are and who Marylanders can be and who Marylanders can aspire to be. The 8% is still with us. It doesn't, who you voted for and why you voted for your opponent has never been a kill point, right? So he obviously said something to you that you resonated with. That's totally fine. We are not here to judge you, berate you, and beat you down for your vote. You have the right to vote in any way you want. It is a freedom, and it is your constitutional right. Right now, what you see, you may agree with, you may not agree with, but what I'm telling you, these are going to have what is happening right now as you can see, is going to have long-term effects. Even the little amount of time, this 1 month or a couple of weeks that this has happened, will stunt our growth in America for years to come. So I again, it however you voted, we can still have a conversation. We can still talk. There are things that we're going to agree on. And that's what I want to rein you in with. I don't want to keep talking about what we don't disagree on. We're not going to ever agree on those things we don't disagree on, right? So let's talk about the things we do agree on. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about healthcare. Let's talk about big government. Let's talk about things that, because you're a constituent still, right? So you being a constituent, your voice matters. I'm not a person that's Democrat only. I'm going to be talking to moderates. I'm going to be talking to independents. I'm going to be talking to all types of people that are not just Democrats, because we are neighbors and friends and family first, right? And then we're our parties. Our parties are so far down the line of what we are, you know, that it matters, but only in voting, you know. But in the big picture of things, we are neighbors. You are a doctor that takes care of me. I don't ask if you're a Democrat or a Republican if I need a heart transplant, right? If I need blood, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, right? If I need housing, I'm not going to say, oh, are you a Republican? Can I still get housing? Huh? Our party line should stop at our party line. It is almost fantastical to people to understand that our party line is a small part of our identity, right? What we believe in, how we live, how we move about in society is bigger than party lines. So I'm hoping to get the 8% to have a conversation with me, to agree on the things we can agree on, to talk about things that are necessary. What, because you have needs too. What are your needs? You're going to be at the town halls. I don't care if you're a Republican. You have needs, and those needs have to be met. That is the whole point of a congressperson, to make sure that our constituents' needs are met.
I agree 100%. And it's usually, it's usually a tug and war with that, and that's why I started off the conversation saying that I've lived in this area my entire life. So I'm okay with conversing with others that have different beliefs than I have, but sometimes, majority of the times, it's not reciprocal. So I like to know from, people who are my elected officials, how they feel about that, especially in this climate, because in this climate, everything is polarizing, right? I grew up in a very Republican family, but we were able to have neighbors that were Democrats. At this point, if you don't, believe the same things, it's a strained relationship. It's, partisan. You stay over here, I don't talk to you. So those are, everyday average people. But I also like to understand it from, people who are running for public office. And you said something about education. One of the reasons why I moved from PG County was because of the education factor.
See?
I lived in Camp Springs, and I did not like the schools at all. I went to DC public schools. I went to Duke Ellington, and I can tell you right now, it's a public school, and it was fantastic. I went to my school, my neighborhood elementary was right behind my house. It was the closest school there. Very, very great school, Parkview Elementary. And again, these types of things used to be, the schools were great. Now all the schools, especially in PG County, are low ranking, and the high property taxes. This shouldn't be. The property taxes are high. That was another reason. So my question to you is, with the high property taxes, and we know most of the property taxes go to education.
Yes.
How would someone like you, again, with people who don't usually or never vote Democratic, but maybe live in Democratic districts and states, of course. How would someone like you fix that type of issue that someone like me is concerned about?
That is a great question. That is a great question. The property taxes are too high. They're too high. They got to come down. There is absolutely no reason the property taxes should be that high. And the schools are absolutely depleted the way they are. It doesn't make sense. That means someone is stealing money, because the money isn't going to where it's supposed to. Where is the money going? I always say follow the money. Follow the people elected and follow the money. Because one thing that I know I keep talking about after school programs. After school programs, free food, because that's, you're going to hear my name a lot. If I'm elected, Maryland is going to be the first state that have a completely free lunch program. Private, public, I don't care. Food is free. Children should have free food, and it's not a political debate. But the schools have to all be fixed up. Every last school should be fixed up. Every last parent should be protesting every school that is dilapidated, falling apart. The teachers are also afraid to go to school. They are literally fighting these kids. So again, where do we start? Where do we start? Because the kids are fighting the teachers, right? The teachers are underpaid and overworked. The money isn't going where it's supposed to. Where do we start at? You know, the schools have to be fixed. People need more money. Teachers need more money. They need more breaks. It's just too much going on. And it's all because of theft. And I know people are like, well, who's stealing the money? I don't know. I'm not in office. I'm a civilian just like everybody else right now, you know? But I know that where's the money at?